Okay, so that's us recording. Right, we're going to start on our feet today. So if you want to get up onto your feet, this is where I need to adjust my camera and hope I can fit my whole body in. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Right, brilliant. All right, so if you've had a chance to watch last week's video, we started lying down and doing quite a lot of breath work and pelvic positioning from the ground. So tonight we are going to start on our feet and then progress down onto the mats later on. So if we get into the first sort of posture of standing, if you bring your feet to about hip width distance apart. So we covered this a wee bit on the Thursday shorter class as well, but hip width is basically 2 fist widths. So you can put your 2 fists down in between your feet and then have your toes pointing forwards. Okay, I'm just going to show you sideways on here as well. So when you're standing, try your best not to lock your knee joints out. So just keep a little bit of softness in your knees. And then if you move up to your hips and your pelvis, and you can just put your hands gently onto your hips. And then if we're going to tilt the pelvis in the 2 extreme positions, okay? So tilting back and tilting forwards. So forwards when you really stick your bum out behind, and then tilt back where you tuck the bum under and you're kind of thrusting your hips forwards. So those are the 2 extremes. So your movement might be smaller or bigger than mine, but just play around with what those 2 extreme tilts of the pelvis feel like. Good. And then we're going to rest in the middle of those 2 extremes. So not completely tucked under, not completely tilted forwards, but just resting in the center. So you get a little bit of a curve in the base of your spine. And if you think about the bottom of your ribs, it's kind of down in line with your pubic bone, okay? Then move up to your shoulders and just roll the shoulders nicely back and down. So your arms now are hanging down at the side of your body with the palms facing in towards the legs or even slightly towards the screen in front of you. Good. Okay, then the breath. So just as we did on the floor last week, we're going to do this standing now. So when you breathe in through your nose if you can. I can't this week because of my cold condition, but just breathe in through your nose preferably and think about your rib cage expanding as if you were blowing 2 big balloons out the side of your ribs. And then as you breathe out, think about the ribs closing back in. Breathe out through your mouth. Okay, so if you want to, you can even put your hands up onto the bottom of your rib cage with your middle fingers touching. And then as you breathe in, feel your hands move apart and your fingers move away from each other. And then as you breathe out, your hands move back in and you close the ribs back in. Okay, so keeping all of that in mind, then we move down to the abdominals as well with our breath. So as you breathe in, feel the belly kind of relax as you take your ribs out the sides. And then as you breathe out, close the ribs and tighten in, draw inwards with your belly button, pulling the belly button in, but without changing this pelvis position. Okay, so breathing in, no lifting of the shoulders, it's all this chest, thoracic area. And then breathe out, draw the abs in and close the ribs. So if you've never done this type of breathing before, that can all feel really awkward and you can feel really stiff and tense. So don't worry about it too much. The more you practice it, the easier it all does become, okay? But try also to relax and not be too sort of rigid. All right, so then start into a little bit of movement, just rolling the shoulders backwards. So sliding up to the ears, sliding all the way back and then pulling the arms down into the floor. Perfect. Good. Okay, then lift your hands, put your fingertips onto your shoulders and start to draw nice circles with the arms. So you bring the elbows together, touching together in front of you if possible, and then up and back behind the midline of your body, in front, up, back, down. Good, and there's probably lots of clicks and crunches happening, and that's totally natural. Good. Let's do 2 more. Okay, then hands down by your side and a little bit of a side bend. So just reaching down either side of the body. So if you're trying to touch down around the outside of each knee. Perfect. And 1 more to each side. And then back into the center. Good, now roll the shoulders back as you breathe in. And then on your exhale, we're going to round the shoulders forwards, bring your chin into your chest, and roll down through each vertebra in the spine. Letting your knees be nice and soft. So not feeling this too much down the back of the legs, feeling it more of a stretch down the spine. And then we restack, restacking the vertebra back, one on top of the other as you roll yourself back to upright. And finish with a nice roll back of the shoulders. Breathing in. Okay, breathe out, round shoulders forwards, lower yourself down, exhaling all the way. Then whenever you're at your furthest position, pause for a breath in, and then breathe out to lift yourself back up. Restacking, inhale, shoulders back, and 1 more, exhale, roll down. Good. Breathe in at the bottom, not worrying about how close to the floor you're getting. And then breathe out, restack, contracting inwards with each exhale, contracting inwards with the belly button. Good. And shoulders back. Lovely. Okay, now we're going to just mobilize our hips and ankles a little bit. So if you want to hold on to a wall or something close by, you can, just for a wee bit of balance. And if you just lift your right leg off the floor and just do little circles inwards with your right foot. And then change direction, circles outwards with your right foot. Good. And then swap over to the other leg or the other foot. Circles inwards. And circles outwards. Perfect. And then both feet flat down onto the floor. Now just the hips a little bit. So we're going to lift the right leg up, knee sort of level with your hip. And then do 4 nice big wide circles back and out. Good. 2. Hold on to anything if you need to for balance. Good. 1 more. And then swap over to the other leg. So lift it up, knee level with your hip. 4 nice big circles backwards. 2, 3, and 4. Brilliant. Okay, bring your feet out to slightly wider than hip width now, about shoulder width, okay? With a little bit of an angle in your toes. Those of you who've watched Thursday's little shorter class We're going to do a wee bit of the squats that we did then, okay? So, toes pointing out slightly. We're going to make sure our knees go in the same direction as our toes. So what I don't want to see is that your feet are pointing out, but when you squat down, your knees are coming in, okay? So just make sure your knees are going out nicely in line with your toes. All right, stand up nice and tall to begin with. Now as you breathe in, we're going to push the bum out behind, bend at the knees in line with your toes, reach forward with the arms, so we're keeping the spine back in that nice diagonal line, and then breathe out, push up through the heels, squeeze into your glutes, and bring the arms back, squeezing shoulder blades together in your back, and stretching across your chest. Okay? We'll repeat that a wee bit quicker now. All right, so breathe in, squat down, breathe out, push up, arms back. Good, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Lovely, few more. Breathe in, breathe out, arms back. Breathe in, reach forwards. Breathe out, push up. Good, 2 more. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to lift our hands up behind the head and do some squats from this position. So again, breathe in, bend down, going down just as low as you can manage. Now stay down, open the arms out to the side. Good. Bring the hands back and stand. Okay, good. And again, breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in, arms back. Breathe out. Stand back. Breathe in, down. Breathe out, arms out. Breathe in, hands back. Breathe out, stand. Good, a few more. Breathing in, knees in line with the toes. Breathe out, arms out. Breathe in, hands back. Breathe out, push up. 2 more. Breathe in, down. Breathe out, arms out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Last one. Breathe in. Knees bent. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Brilliant. And relax the arms. So hopefully you could feel that, down the arms and also across the back, as well as obviously your legs. Yes? Okay, good. Right, so now if you walk down to the end of your mat, I'm just going to have to adjust my camera now, because we're going to go down onto the floor. Okay. So down at the end of your mat, breathe in, shoulders back. And then on your out breath, roll yourself forwards and down, and then bring your hands down onto the floor. And come down so you're on all fours now. Just check, you can still see me, okay? Can't you hear? Good, and then we'll all just adjust our cameras. Brilliant. Okay, so in this position, we want hands underneath your shoulders and knees underneath your hips. So often we get like this. We bring our hands and our knees far too close together. So if you look down to your hands and your knees and think shoulder, hip, does that look like the length of my body? And if it doesn't, just try and adjust. Or if you've got a screen in front of you, sometimes that can really help you. So I'm just gonna have to grab a drink. When you can't breathe properly through your nose, you get very dry mouth. Okay. So yeah, having the screen there can be a really good way to check how you're doing, how you're positioned. So from here, just a little bit of breathing now, because this is a great position to feel that belly contracting back and relaxing. Okay, so on your in-breath, just allow the belly to completely relax. And then when you breathe out, think about lifting the belly up, but without moving the spine just yet. So breathing out, drawing the belly button inwards, and lifting everything up into your spine and away from the floor. Breathe in and relax. And breathe out, draw back in. Breathe in and relax. And breathe out, draw back in. With no movement in the spine just yet. Okay, then we're going to add some spinal movement as well. So on your in-breath, as you're relaxing the belly, just gently sort of push your belly down in towards the floor, push your bum and your tailbone up towards the ceiling, and lift your gaze so you're looking towards the end of your mat. Then on your out breath, we reverse that, tuck the tailbone under, lift the belly button inwards as you pull the belly up away from the floor, round up and arch across your shoulders, tuck your chin in towards your chest, and look back towards your knees. Okay, a few more of those. Breathing in, scoop the spine, tailbone up towards the ceiling, looking towards the end of your mat, and then breathing out, arching. Good, a couple more. Good. I'm overheating again. I just opened my window. If it gets noisy, would somebody wave and let me know and I'll close it again? Good, so last one of these, breathing in and scooping. And breathing out, arching and rounding. Perfect. Okay, then we're going to go into some arm and leg extension. Okay, so nice breath in. And then on your out breath, just the leg to begin with. Slide your right leg out behind you and then lift it up to hip height. And then lower it and slide the knee back in underneath the hip. Then your left leg, breathing out, slide the leg away and lift. And then lower and slide it back. Good, and again, right leg. Breathing out, extend, lift just to hip height. So we're not trying to lift it all the way up to the ceiling. And then lower, bring the knee back in. And the other side, left leg, extend and lift, lower and back. Good, now just the arms. So right leg or right arm extends and then lift, bicep up beside the ear, then lower your hand down, bring it back in underneath your shoulder. Then left arm extends, lift, then lower and back. Right arm again, extend, lift, lower and back. Left arm, extend, lift, lower and back. Now we put them both together, okay? Opposite arm and opposite leg. So nice breath in to prepare. And then on your out breath, slide left leg, right leg, left arm. And then lift to shoulder height and hip height. Then lower them down to the floor and slide back in under shoulder and under knee. Then the opposite side, left leg, right arm, slide them out, lift them up, lower them down, and bring them back into position. Keep on going, so alternating arm and leg. Just going to come and see how you all look. Brilliant. So we don't want to have too much wobbling or leaning to either side. So this is where we use that core breath. So we're moving on our exhale and using that contraction inwards of the abdominals and the belly button to help hold your body steady. Brilliant. Perfect. Good, let's do one more on each side. Everything nice and slow and controlled, moving with purpose and focus and concentration. Okay, brilliant. Then just kick your feet out to the side and come down into a seated position. Okay, now I think I mentioned this before, if you need to, you can sit up on a little block or a little tile if you feel that you would need a little bit of height in underneath your hips. Okay, so keeping your knees bent at this point, so maybe it's not so bad anyway. So hands in underneath your knees and make sure that your spine is as straight as you can manage. Okay, so you're not too rounded like this, because that's where we're headed. Okay, so I'm going to try and get the difference between straight and stacked spine and rounded C-curved spine. Okay, so this is sort of the first step. Then we're going to go into some half roll backs and then some full roll down and roll ups. Okay, so I should have said this at the start, if you have a resistance band or anything at all, get it handy, because sometimes that can help with the full roll downs and ups. But if you don't worry, I'll show you what to do anyway. Okay, so hands in underneath your knees, spine really nice and straight to begin with. Breathe in. Now on your out breath, what do? We draw the belly button inwards. So that's the first thing. And with that, your pelvis will slightly start to roll back, round your shoulders and tuck your chin in towards your chest and straighten out the arms. Okay, that's your breath out. And then breathe in and sit back up, spine nice and straight. Breathe out, round, drawing belly button in, stretching the arms, chin into chest. Breathe in, straighten your spine. Good, breathe out. And breathe in. One more, breathe out. Round, C shape, C curve, and breathe in. Okay, so just come back to this if any of the next ones get too intense or feel too difficult. Okay, so we're going to go into half roll backs now. So again, we start sitting upright, breathe in, then on your out breath, get into that C curve, arms are straightened, but this time we walk the hands down the backs of the thighs and lower a little further. But don't let your lower spine quite reach the floor. Quick inhale before you exhale. Hands walking back up the backs of the thighs. And breathe in to restack your spine. Okay, breathe out, round and lower. Quick inhale. And then exhale. Sit back up and restack the spine. Now, if you can release the hands. If you don't need the support of the arms there, release the hands. Arms are extended. And then, same idea, exhale, roll down. Pause, quick breath in. And then breathe out. Drawing abs inwards. Sit back up. Breathe in. Roll shoulders back and straighten up your spine. And just keep on going with your own breathing pattern. You don't need to stick with me because I'm talking so much sometimes my exhales and inhales are ridiculously long as I get all the words out. So feel free to breathe before I tell you to as well. But if you can manage to get it, the breath, right, we're breathing out on the way down. Pause, quick breath in. And then breathe out. Sit back up. Breathe in, restack, and straighten your spine. Good. Again, I'm just going to look at where you are. Good, lovely rounding. Brilliant, and restack when you sit back up. Chin into chest on the way down. Good, lovely. Don't go down too far. You don't want your spine to quite reach the floor just yet. Good. Okay, 2 more of these. Breathing out, abs drawing in. Quick inhale. Breathing out, abs drawing in as you sit back up. And last one. Okay, now we're going to progress it and go into the full roll down and up. Those of you with a resistance band, grab hold of it now and you can put it around the soles of your feet. I'm just going to show you all the different levels. So I'll show you maybe without the resistance band first and just keeping the knees bent. So it's the same idea, start straight and then exhale, roll your spine down. But this time you do let the spine touch down. So there's my lower spine connected, then the next vertebra, next one, finally your shoulders and your head. Bring the arms up overhead, breathing in, and then breathe out. Lift arms, lift head, lift shoulders, lift middle section of your spine. If you need to, grab hold behind the thighs and bring yourself back up. Or if you have a resistance band, you can use that. So slowly lower down. If you're holding onto a resistance band, arms obviously don't go up overhead. But then you still move on your exhale, lifting up. And you can kind of use the band like a rope almost. But it's elasticated, so it's a difficult rope. It's kind of helping you and hindering you all at the same time. Okay? Or feel free just to lean over to the side slightly, give yourself a little push back up into seated and focus more on the roll down. If it all feels okay, try straightening out your legs and then rolling down. Arms up, reaching up over your head. And then breathe out and lift slowly, slowly. One section of your spine at a time. And then come into a lovely spine stretch as you stretch forwards, reaching towards your feet and your toes. Then stack the spine, sit upright to begin with again, and then round, melt your spine, rolling down onto the floor. Breathe in, arms up overhead. And then breathe out. Lift, 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 slowly, slowly, slowly. Breathe in, reach forwards towards your toes. So there's lots of different options in this little sequence. The full roll down, the full roll up, the half ones, or just going back to the seated C curve with the legs bent, and just getting familiar with that movement of the spine. Good. Lovely. And that's really nice. Slow connection down to the floor and slow lift up off the floor. Brilliant. And then reach forwards. Good. So try, if you haven't got your legs completely straightened, try these last two with your legs unbent, so legs flat. Good. Brilliant. And then reach forwards. Lovely. Excuse me. Good. Make this your last one. Brilliant. Good. Okay. So now we're going to come down onto the floor. So one last roll back. Okay, breathe in. And then breathing out, roll yourself down onto the floor and just let your head rest now on the ground. Bend your knees so your feet are flat on the floor, knees pointing up towards the ceiling. Now again, we're going to just quickly touch on this pelvic position again. So if you put your hands, just rest your hands onto your lower belly or onto your hip bones and just tilt the pelvis back. And you'll feel how your lower back really presses into the floor, your glutes lift off slightly as they lose connection slightly with the floor. And then tilt the pelvis forwards. And you should feel the lower back, maybe even moving up into your middle back, arching up slightly, and your glutes really pressing hard down into the floor. Okay, so we want to start in a neutral pelvic position, which is just again in between those two, just like we did when we were standing. Okay, so the two extremes, you see how they feel, and then you find your middle ground. Okay. So then just put your hands down onto the floor beside you. We're going to repeat a few things that we did in the last session as well, because repetition really helps to embed things and improve your muscle memory and make things easier for your body to remember. Okay, so starting off just by lifting the legs up into the tabletop position. So lift your right leg, hip at 90 degrees, knee at 90 degrees, and then lift your left leg, and then lower the right, and lower the left. Good. Lift, lift. Feel those abdominals contract. We're trying not to alter the position too much of our lower back. Lower and lower. Lift and lift. Now you might feel a slight sort of imprinting of that lower back down onto the floor. But what we don't want is that you're just lifting the knees in and you really feel your back pressing hard down into the floor, okay? So it's about keeping control of your pelvis as we lift and lower these legs. So for some people, this in itself can be enough, okay? So just continue doing this, switching which leg you begin with. So sometimes lifting left first and lowering left first, and sometimes lifting right first and lowering right first. Okay, but for those of you who that all feels totally fine, there's no discomfort or pain in your lower back, we're going to go up a level further. So lifting your legs up first of all, tabletop position. You can even check yourself in the mirror or the screen. But I want you to be able to feel it more from your body, so if you have them too close in, you lose the pelvic position. If you don't have them in enough, you're going to feel your abs working too hard. It's going to be really difficult for you to hold them there. Okay, this time we're going to do some heel drops. So flex your feet, which just means bringing your toes back in, pointing your toes back in towards your shins. Now, a nice breath in, and then on your exhale, hinge at the hip on the right leg, and just lower that right heel to the floor. And then breathe in, bring it back. Then exhale, lower your left leg. And inhale, bring it back. Good, keep on going. Right leg. And back. And left leg. And back. Good, keep going right and left. Now, if anyone's feeling any kind of soreness in your lower back, just put both feet down on the floor, have a little breather. Good, that looks brilliant. So slow and controlled. And like I keep saying as well, Pilates, it's one of those things, the exercises really creep up on you. You start off thinking they're easy, and then after a few rounds you realize, oh, this is harder than I first thought. Brilliant. Those of you who do want an extra challenge with this, you can try the last few where we lower both legs down to the floor together. Breathing out, not letting that middle spine arch, and then lift back in. Breathe out. Keep your lower spine down by drawing the belly button inwards and lift. Good, last couple, either single or double legs. Brilliant, and then just give the knees a nice little hug in towards the tummy or the chest, and just a little rock from side to side on your spine. Okay, good. Now feet flat on the floor, and we're going to leave the abs alone and do a little bit of pelvic or a little bit of shoulder bridge. So we start in the neutral pelvis again, arms just resting down on the floor beside you. Your feet are quite close in towards the bum and they're hip width apart, knees up towards the ceiling. All right, nice breath in to prepare. Then on your out breath, tilt your pelvis back. Glutes start to lift. Keep going with that. Lift the hips up off the floor. Lift your lower spine and then the middle section of your spine. Squeeze into your glutes as you press those hips up towards the ceiling. And breathe in. And then on your exhale, lower back down. Middle section of your spine. Lower section of your spine. Little inhale as you tilt your pelvis forwards into the neutral position again. And then repeat. Exhale, tilt back. Lift. Squeeze, breathe in. And then breathe out, lower. And back to the neutral position. Good, a couple more just like this. Then we're going to add in a little something just to make it a little bit different. And lower. Good, one more. Exhale, tilt back and lift. Squeeze and press the hips towards the ceiling. And then exhale, lower. And back to the neutral position. Good, okay, now we're going to lift the heels off the floor. So we're just up on our tiptoes. And we're going to do exactly the same. So you might want to bring your toes slightly further back in towards your bum now. Okay, so nice breath in. And then on your exhale, tilt the pelvis back and lift. Good, squeeze the glutes, breathe in. And then breathe out, lower back down. Good, we'll do 3 like this, keeping the heels lifted. Exhale, tilt and lift. Squeeze, breathe in. And then breathe out, lower. Check your shoulders that they haven't crept up towards the ears. Adjust if you need to. One last one from the tiptoes. Lift, squeeze, and lower. Good. Now, put your feet flat again, and then lift your toes off the floor. So we're just pressing down onto the heels this time. Breathe in, and then on your exhale, tilt the pelvis back and lift. Good. Squeeze into the glutes, hold for a breath in, and then breathe out. Lower yourself back down. Keep those toes lifted, feeling this all the way down the front of the shins. Keep pulling the feet in, or the toes in. Good, we're doing 3 of these. Exhale, lift and squeeze. Inhale, and then exhale, lower down. And tilt your pelvis again. Good, and then one more. Exhale, lift. Try to keep drawing those toes back in. I know your shins really do start to feel that. And then lower. And lower your feet back down onto the floor. Good. Okay, now feet are just flat on the ground, knees still pointing up towards the ceiling. And bring your hands up behind your head. So we're going to do some of the ab curl or crunches, otherwise known as crunches. But we're going to do a little bit of oblique work as well with this. So similar to what we did last week as well. So a nice breath in. Then on your out breath, first thing, tighten in those lower abdominals. Then lift head and shoulders just as high as you can manage off the floor. And then breathe in to lower back down. Breathe out, lift, tightening. And then breathe in to lower. Good, a couple more. Breathe out. Draw abs back, lift head and shoulders, chin tucked in towards your chest, gaze towards the thighs rather than the ceiling. Breathe in and lower. Breathe out and lift. And breathe in and lower. Good, okay, now breathe out, lift up. Now we're going to hold here. I want you to release your left hand and just twist around, bringing your left hand around to the outside of your right thigh. Good. Then still staying lifted if you can. Left hand back behind the head, release your right hand and twist over to the left, bringing right hand around to the outside of your left thigh. Back to the center, both hands behind the head. And lower down for a moment's rest. Breathing in, prepare, breathe out, lift. Good. Reach, twisting. Back to the center, reach, twisting to the other side. Back to the center, and lower down. Breathe out, lift. Reach. Back to the center, reach, back to the center, and lower. Good, continue like that, lift, reach, good, back to the center, reach, try to get one movement with each breath stroke. Excellent. Breathe out, lift. Breathe in, reach. Breathe out, back to the center. Breathe in, reach. Breathe out, back to the center. Breathe in, lower. And again, exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Brilliant. Let's do 2 or 3 more rounds of these. Lovely, slow, long, slow, long reaches. Excuse me. Brilliant. Good, trying to lift as much off the floor as possible. If it all gets too much on your neck, remind yourself to support your head with your hands. and really just to focus in on your abdominals and let the abdominals carry all the load and do all the work. Okay, and then relax. Just let your knees then sort of rock gently from side to side. A little bit of a stretch across the middle of the body then after that, just with this little stretch of the lower body. And then we're going to roll over onto our side. Okay, so if you start lying on your right hand side, so your left leg is on top. And again, feel free to use towels or pillows or anything that you might need to, support your neck or make this more comfortable for you. So try to have your whole body in a nice straight line. Shoulders, hips, knees and ankles all in one nice straight line. And just resting your head on your arm. We're going to do single leg lift and lower. So we're just going to lift this left leg up towards the ceiling. So a nice breath in, and then on your out breath, lift the left leg with toes pointed, then flex the foot on your inhale and lower the leg back down. Good, breathe out, lift, toes pointed, flex the foot, breathe in and lower back down with control. Good, breathe out, toes pointed, lift, flex the foot, breathe in and lower. And again, breathe out, lift, flex the foot, lower. Breathe out, lift, flex the foot, breathing in, lower down. Good, 3 more, breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Flex and lower. Last one. Flex and lower. Brilliant. Okay, now a split torpedo. So we lifted both legs last week. This week we're just going to lift this top leg, your left leg, just slightly higher than hip height. And then just lift and lower this right leg underneath. Okay, so breath in, then on your out breath, lift your left leg or your right leg up to meet the left, and then lower. And lower. Good. Now if you need any extra padding underneath that right hip, feel free. Sometimes it can be really uncomfortable pressing your hip so hard down into the floor. Last 2. Brilliant. And lower that top leg down as well. Okay, then roll over onto your left side and we'll do those 2 exercises with the other side. So getting comfortable, getting aligned, ankles, knees, hips and shoulders, all nicely lined up. Use your right hand to help support you if you need to. The extra challenge can be lifting that right hand off and just using your core to help support you and stop you rolling forwards or backwards. Okay, breathe in, and then on your out breath, lift the right leg, toes pointed. Breathe in, foot flexed and lower. Breathe out and in. Breathe out and in. Good. Breathe out and in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathing out, lift. Breathe in, lower. 3 more. Good. And last one. Brilliant. Now I lift the right leg just slightly higher than hip height. Breathe in, and on your out breath, lift the lower leg up to meet it and lower. Lift and lower. lift, and lower. And hopefully feeling this on the obliques on that right side, that upper side. If not, try lifting your leg, your right leg, a little bit higher. Good, 3 more. 2. And last one. Brilliant. And then lower that right leg as well. Good. Now roll from here onto your tummy. And we're going to do the dart. Okay, so this is where you have your heels click together and then bring your arms around the outside of your thighs. Okay, so you're trying to make yourself really sort of skinny, as if you're sort of like squeezed inside a tube or something. Okay, like a dart. All right, so your chin or your forehead can be resting down on the floor. Mine's just lifted so my voice isn't muffled. Okay, take your breath in, and then on your exhale, lift your head and your chest up off the floor, as if you were trying to reach down towards your feet with the arms. And then lower back down. Breathe out, lift. Breathe in and lower. And remember, on your out breath, you're drawing the belly button inwards. So even as you're sort of lifting up and feels as if you're almost pressing your belly harder down into the floor, what you think about trying to lift the abdominals up and in towards your spine. Now keep your heels clicked together. Keep on going with that. Yep, so keep your heels nicely clicked together. That just gets your glutes nicely working as well. Good. Now, if anyone is finding this really not working, feel free to bring your hands more in underneath your shoulders and use a little bit of arm strength here as well to help support you as you try and come into these little back extensions. Anyone who it's feeling okay for, we're going to add in a little bit of a side stretch as well. So breathe out, lift. Then just reach down round the right hand side. Come back through the center and reach over to the left hand side. Back to the center and lower. And again, lift. Reach to the right. Back to the center. Reach to the left. Back to the center. And lower. One more. Lift. Reach to the right. Back through the center. Reach to the left. Back to the center. And lower. Well done. Then push yourself up onto your hands and knees, coming back into that 4-point kneeling position with your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. And come up into that lovely cat stretch where we arch up across the shoulders, giving your spine a really good stretch after those back extensions. Good. Then if you click your feet together and just push your knees a little wider apart and then push back. So you push your bum back down towards the heels and stretch yourself forwards. Now don't worry if you can't get the bum all the way down to the heels, just wherever you can manage is fine. But this is just a nice way to stretch out your lower back. Bring your forehead down onto the floor. Good, just breathe for a couple of breaths and then start to walk your hands over to the right hand side, so off your mat onto the floor. Just coming over as far as you need to for you to feel a nice stretch down the left side of the body, starting right in underneath the arm on the left side. Hold and breathe. And then over to the left hand side. There's a bit of banging going on downstairs here, so sorry if that's coming through. And just stretch. Go to wherever you need to so you can feel a bit of a stretch. Good. Then come back to your mat, swing the legs around, back into a seated position, and roll yourself down onto your spine, onto your back again. Knees bent, straighten up that right leg up towards the ceiling, and just walk your hands up the back of the leg and just draw it back in towards you slightly so you feel a good stretch all the way down the back of that right side, right leg. Every time you breathe out, see if you can pull the leg a little further back. And then just flex the foot. You might even be able to reach up, grab hold of your toes. And don't worry if you can't, you'll get this. It's just to stretch out your calf a little bit. And you'll get the stretch even just by the little flex of the foot. But if you can apply a little bit of extra pressure, that'll just intensify and deepen the stretch a little more. Good, and then release, swap over, lift up your left leg, and just draw the left leg back in towards the body. Hold for a few breaths, trying to pull it further back with each exhale. And then flex the foot, drawing the toes in towards the shin, reaching up, grabbing hold of the toes, applying a little bit of extra pressure. Only if you can, don't worry if you can't. You might find one side is easier than the other. Good, and release. Feet both flat onto the floor. Just put one hand on your ribs and one hand on your belly. Let your eyes gently close for a moment, if they're not already closed, and just breathe here for a few breaths. Breathing in deeply, feeling the ribs expand, feeling your belly inflate. And then breathing out, feeling your belly draw inwards as it lowers in towards the floor, feeling the rib cage close in again as you empty the lungs of air. A couple more breaths. Just noticing now how the body is feeling after the movement. One last lovely deep breath. And long, slow exhale. And that's your class finished for this evening, or this morning or this afternoon, whenever you get a chance to watch, if you're watching the recording. I will hit stop now and have a quick chat with the live people.